So as I said, this is I think part 4 now. Um, Ran into his girlfriend, saw she was pregnant, confronted him about it, broke up. We broke up. I didn't want to have anything to do with him or that kind of situation. So that went on for a few months, us being broken up. And then he, I think, got another internship or NGO, but I started seeing him at the office more often. And I just radio silence. I just, ignored him and blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't remember exactly how it happened, but anyways, we got back together. But I called it friends with benefits. And so that happened. So he still was with his girlfriend who was pregnant, and we were seeing each other as well. And, after a few months of that, he shared with me that he loved me. And I didn't share that. I didn't say that back to him. I was like, what the fuck am I getting myself into? So we just kept, seeing each other. His son's mom eventually had the baby, had a boy, and we just kept seeing each other. And after a while, like, it seemed like it was just he and I, but I still knew he was around his son's mom because he had a son with her. And as time went on and the years went, I was stationed in Jamaica for 4 years. We saw each other the whole time. I didn't break up with him again, and we had great experiences and memories and fun things that we did together, go to the movie, or we went to resort once, and just a lot of fun. And as it got to the point where I was about ready to close out my service, I kind of was at a crossroads. I'm like, I'm not staying in Jamaica. I can't, find a job that's going to pay me enough to be able to take care of my student loans that I had in deferment because of being in Peace Corps. And, just having that expense and trying to make a living. And, we had talked about having kids and getting married at that point. And I'm like, I can't live here and us do all of that. So, I left not really knowing what was going to happen. And so I got back to the States and started settling in and looking for work. And, we talked all the time. I got Digicel international plans so we could talk, and we pretty much would talk all of the time. Every day we'd hear from each other. And, it kept continuing, in my opinion, being serious. And, I'm like, well, where's this going to go? And that's when we really started talking seriously about, getting engaged, and that eventually he'd come to the U.S. And so I was down with that. So, just thinking back on, before I continue with where we were at that point, just looking back on the 4 years when we were dating, we did go out and we did do things, but not a lot. It's, when you're in a developing country, it's hard to date. You have to go to a bigger city in that country to find, like, Pizza Hut or restaurants. I remember there was I think it was a Fridays or something in the capital city that we went to a couple times. It's expensive to date. I was on a Peace Corps salary. He was a college student for most of the time we were together, and then also, internship. So neither of us had a lot of money. So we didn't date in a traditional way, and I didn't really know the difference because, like I said, I'd never really dated anyone in the States, so I didn't know what I was missing out on, I guess. So But there were things that happened during that time that, looking back, were red flags. Like, there'd be times where I'd try to call or contact him, and it could be like he'd say, "Oh, I'm coming to see you tonight." Hours and hours and hours calling, texting, "When are you coming?" Radio silence. And, or, there'd be times where I couldn't talk to him or whatever because he was with his son's mom, or at least that's what he had shared with me. So, that was, looking back, unusual and not fair for me or our relationship. But I always used it. I used the excuse a lot of, well, this is how things are here. This is how it is to date here. That was my excuse a lot for some of the stuff. There'd be times where he'd ask me for money, not money from America, but like, I made very little as a Peace Corps volunteer. But sometimes I'd loan him, maybe probably like the equivalent of $20-$30 US, but there it was a lot because I still had to pay my rent and pay for phone cards to be able to call my family and stuff, and food and different things. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of times where, like, I was like, well, are we dating? Are we not dating? Because you've been out of pocket a lot, or I haven't heard from you, or I tried calling you and not hearing anything, or I texted you not hearing anything, or you said you were to come by and see me and it's like 5 hours later. What is up with that? Again, I just kept making the excuse that, oh, well, you're experiencing what it's like to be dating someone in another country. And, I just went along with it. And then when I came to the US, it was a lot easier even though we would talk daily, but it was easier for that time to go where I wouldn't hear from him or he wouldn't hear from me, because I couldn't afford to call him all of the time, like all day long or something like that. So, and it wasn't like he'd be like, oh yeah, I'm coming over to see you. Obviously, he's not in the US at the time. So that not being able to communicate or get a hold of him thing wasn't as noticeable, just merely because of the distance and where we were living. Yeah, so I'm going to end this one right here, and then we'll pick it up in the next part where, we get engaged and all of that. All right, bye.